Recognize the 2007 inductees that have come back to be with us again this evening. So if you would just stand at your place at the table and we'll recognize you. Bill Bredesen. Pam Greeks. Herb Mickelson. Fred Full. And Herb Mickelson. And it started with this evening's introduction. The first will be the introduction of the 1950-51 basketball teams, and Bob Miller will provide us with those introductions.
Hi. You're going to start with me and get all the mistakes over with right away. Okay, the 1950 state basketball team had some very good numbers. To start out with, they scored 12,002 points. The opponent scored 744. They beat Ivanhoe in the first district game with a first quarter ending score of 0-0. Ivanhoe put on control ball. The halftime score was Canby 11, Ivanhoe 9, but they went on to win it with a big score. Okay, they beat Marshall for the first district championship, or for District 9 championship. They beat Hutchinson and Appleton in the region. In state, they beat Mankato 42-32. Canby then lost to Duluth Central 38-25 in the third game. Rochester beat Canby 37-34. Keep in mind, these players were playing against schools with large enrollment. There was only one class in those days. I'll now ask Herb Mickelson to come up and give a little first-hand input.
Tell I have a little arthritis the way I walk. As far as the 1950 team is concerned, I think the thing that sticks out most in my mind, I think we played 30 games that year, and we didn't play any from home. They were all on the road. If we had what we called a home game, we played most of them at Madison. If they had a conflict with the facility, we probably played one or two at Dawson. As Bob said, that team year they had one loss in the regular season. That was the Marshall by 5 points. They went on to the region, and as Bob said, we played Hutch and Apple. We beat them both. The Hutch game was very close. I think we beat them by 4. And Mike Dunphy, I think, pulled us out of that game. He had an act of any time that we needed the ball, he had hands that were so fast and quick that he was stealing from the opponent. And we came from probably behind to go ahead and win by 4. In the state tournament that year, we played Mankato. We beat them by 10. And then we lost the next 2 games. One to Rochester, and the other one to Duluth Central. Duluth Central was the original state champion that year, and it was outstanding ball club. So we ended up in 1950, 4th place in the 1950 tournament, and a season record of 27-3. Thank you.
Thanks, Herb. This team was coached by Roger Isaacson, Neil Davis, and Hugh Merritt. Now, as I read the players' names and the cheerleaders, would you please come up here for the recognition and also pictures? Okay, the squad consisted of Ron Smith, Herb Mickelson, Wendell Miller, Slower. Would you come up, please, as your names are read? Mike Dunphy, Ron Cole, Bill Blankenfeld, Jack Leverins, Jerry Ormseth, John Henningsgaard, Don Hanson. Wow, you're fill me in. Those are boards
We're
from.
also receiving a board from the gym floor that they didn't always get to play on.
Okay, just stay there, guys. The cheerleaders that year were Marilyn Drings, Gwen Tibbetts, Gladys Christianson, and Leo Moan. Would they please come up? If the pictures are done, I guess we could move it into the 51 team. Okay, the 1951 state basketball team. Again, this is a team that played much bigger schools with huge enrollments. Canby scored 1,396 points against 881. Canby was the sweetheart favorite in this championship game. The only problem was that Hulver shot 65% from the field. Their center, Simonovich, was either 6'10 or 6'11. I'm not real sure about that. I stood alongside him and I was very short compared to him. I believe that year the only loss was Minneapolis Central, 40-36. That was before the state tournament. In district play, Lancers played Lake Bettman, beat them 36-20. 69 over Tyler's 49. Ron and Herb each recorded 22 points in that game. The district championship, Lancers 64, Marshall 40. Ron scored 21 in that game and Herb 18. In region play, Canby played Dawson the first round and beat them 47-25, and Redwood Falls 46-31. In the state tournament, Canby's first game was 45, Hopkins 43. Herb hit 9 of 11 shots from the field for a total of 19 points. He had one free shot evidently. Canby, the second game, Canby 63, Brainerd 34. Ron Smith hit 25 points in that game. The last game was the one where, as I said earlier, Gilbert was pretty hot. They had 69 points to Canby's 52. And after that game, Ron Smith made All-State. Ron Cole was mentioned in this game as an outstanding defensive player and playmaker. He was rather an unsung hero of this team, of this team and this game. I'll now ask Bill Blankenfeld to come up and give some personal input.
Being a school teacher,
now have a board of education. Just a couple words about the success of our basketball team back in 1950-51. It's a team that probably won the hearts of thousands of people across the whole state of Minnesota. People say that Canby went to the state tournament 2 years in a row, but never won. What I say is, we won the hearts and souls and support of thousands of people across the whole state of Minnesota. Well, thank you so much. I have gotten so much from being a member of the team that and it keeps coming. I want to thank Bob, committee, Canby for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. As I read the names of the players, I'd like to have them come forward just like before. Wendell Miller, Herb Mickelson, Ron Smith, Ron Cole, Mike Dunphy, Bill Langefeld, Don Hanson, Jack Leverns, Jerry Ornseth, Russ Langefeld, Louis Pearl, Jerome Christianson, and Dwayne Olson. Cheerleaders were Gwen Tibbetts, Leo Moon, Gladys Christensen, Patsy Oxendorf, and the coaches were the same as in 1950. This is the end of my presentation, and this was a very, very entertaining two teams.
And our other team that will be honored this evening, the 1993 cross-country team, introductions by Patty Merritt.
I'd like to have the girls that are here from the team to come up to front. Teresa Erb, Allison Dreets, Ann Dipsetter, Carrie Carlson, and Nicole Anderson, and head coach Bill Bredesen. Sport team of the school to win the highest honor in high school sports, state champions. It was a result of dedication, perseverance, and determination that paid off. The Lancers, who finished fourth the year before, stepped up their pace and finished with 102 points to win the Class A title, 41 points ahead of Plainview, who came in a distant second. The state meet was held at St. Olaf College in Northfield. In 1993, the distance the girls' teams ran was a 2-mile course. The Lancers were led by sophomore Ann Dipsetter, who paced the team with a time of 12:37. She was followed by junior Allison Dreets at 12:42, senior Allison Voss at 12:53, freshman Carrie Carlson at 13:03, and senior Teresa Erb at 13:04. All finished within 30 seconds of each other. Nicole Anderson, 8th grade, and Allison Olson, sophomore, rounded out the team runners for the Lancers. Jess Salisbury was the team alternate. Mike Larson was the team manager. I had the honor of being the assistant coach, and head coach was Mr. Bill Bredesen. The Lancers laced up their running spikes and donned warm clothes for the 20-degree day and rough, snow-covered course at Northfield. Their goal was to place somewhere close to the top. They came into the meet ranked 4th. As these girls crossed the finish line, most of them were very disappointed with their times. Some were in tears, some were dejected, and some felt they had just blown it for their team. Before the announcement of the championship, Coach Bredesen and I knew that they had won it, but we didn't tell the girls. As the teams were called for their respective places, the looks on the girls' face turned from dismay at not hearing their team name to pure joy of hearing it called last, state champions. It was a total team effort, just as they had done all season long. When one was having a bad day, another one stepped it up. The team really came through. The core group of runners, Erb, Voss, Dipsetter, Dreets, and Olson, came together in 1991. They made their first state appearance that year and placed ninth. In 1992, the same core group placed fourth, and in 93, with some added depth, they were the team champions. Their work and team commitment certainly paid off for them. I want to give a shortened version of one of the mottos that they ran by. Teamwork, lessons from geese. As each bird flaps its wings, it creates an uplift for the bird following. By flying in a V formation, the whole flock had 71% greater flying range than if a bird flew alone. The lesson, people who share a common direction and sense of community can get where they are going quicker and easier because they are traveling with the thrust of one another. When the lead goose gets tired, it rotates back into formation. Another goose flies at the point position. Lesson, it pays to take turns doing a hard task and sharing leadership. This team ran by this motto and it paid off. There was not one standout in this group, they were all standouts. They ran, lived, worked, and respected each other as a team. I'm so honored to have gotten to be a part of this team. Congratulations, Mr. Bredesen and the Lancer Girls Cross Country Team of 1993.
Inductee will be presented by Darcy Nordo.
I am pleased to be able to present Lee Savold to the Canby Athletic Hall of Fame. I'd like to quote from a history book called History of Yellow Medicine County by Narvestead. This is the opening paragraph of a 5-page biography of Lee Savold. The most unusual saga of the century of Yellow Medicine County is that of the Canby barber who made a world's heavyweight boxing champion out of a Green Hammer Township farm boy. Lee was born in 1916 at Canby Swenson Hospital, son of Mr. and Mrs. Sam Savold, farmer and hammer. He started training as a youth with Ben Dobuck in the basement of Ben's barbershop in Canby. When he was 16, he was entered in a boxing show at the Lacoparle County Fair. He knocked out his opponent in the 3rd round. After more training, he boxed in Golden Glove tournaments. His first professional fight was in November 1933 in Minneapolis. His career spanned the years 1933 to 1952. He fought most of the big names in boxing of that era, including Billy Conn, Buddy Bear, Joe Louis, and Rocky Marciano. His career record was 90 wins, 32 defeats, and 2 draws. Of his 90 wins, 65 were by knockouts. In 1950 in London, he beat Bruce Woodcock in 4 rounds to become heavyweight champion of Europe, and was recognized as heavyweight champion of the world by the British Boxing Board of Control. In 1951 in New York's Madison Square Garden, he was defeated by Joe Louis. After several more fights, he retired in 1952. A little Lee Savold trivia. Lee served in the United States Merchant Marine during World War II. He fought 10 times in Madison Square Gardens. He fought in all the other major sports arenas in the United States. In 1948, he knocked out Gino Buonavino in 54 seconds. That's the shortest fight on record for Madison Square Gardens. His London fight against Woodcock had 50,000 people in attendance. He picked up the dubious nickname of Beat Buster because of the number of opponents' noses he'd broken in fights. He was very popular and well-liked in England. He was almost treated like royalty there. That first fight at Lac-Parle County Fair was against a Canby blacksmith who outweighed him by 20 pounds. The purse for the fight, his first, was $10. In August of 1940, the Canby Commercial Club held a banquet in the high school gym honoring Lee Savold. Among many guests were Ben Buck, his original trainer, and Twin City sports writers. Lee was presented with a 21-jewel watch. It was attended by 290 people. That's about the same number of people we have here tonight. I would venture to guess that unless Lawrence Ferguson was there, I'm probably the only one present in this hall that was there at that banquet. Even after defeats, Lee was well known for his ability to work himself back up to the top. Before his championship bout with Woodcock, he received a good luck telegram from Ella Graham, his country school teacher in Hammer Township. He was elated as he had a lot of respect for her. Lee died in 1972 from a stroke. He was 56 years old. Accepting his plaque tonight is his son, Dick, accompanied by his wife, Kaye, from the state of Washington. Dick, if you would come forward, please.
For all their work and hospitality. Thank you. Don't have too much more to add to that. Dad was a great guy. He traveled all over the world. I think his heart was in Canby. The sports writers would always mention that he was from their town or the town that he was training in. And he would, if he had a chance, tell them that he was from Canby, Minnesota. If you were here to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I'll say it before him, thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Good evening, everyone. Jerry Perkins, Jim Perkins, will you stand up, please? Two of Roger Eischens' wrestling teammates. Would the person in red stand up too? Roger Eischens' godson, John Sterner. I feel like the frog that just swallowed a big fat caterpillar and tickled to death to be here. Only 5 minutes to understand this outstanding Canby landscape. The memories flood. Roger, friend, teammate, best man at my wedding, a guru in yoga, a teacher. My son's godfather. South Dakota State College of Agriculture and Mechanical Arts. I was playing football for it in 1959 when our TV started saying, hey, there's a stud from Canby coming here. His name is Roger Eischens. And wow, were they right? He was a stud. And what he did was awesome. So I started playing football with Roger. I bonded with Roger. We both had similar experiences. My parents divorced when I was young. I did not grow up with a father. Roger didn't either, and we became very close together. And we both wanted to do the best we could, and we tried to do our best. And in fact, if you look in his accomplishments, Eischens yoga means unity of the mind, the body, and the spirit. And this is what really exemplified in Roger, all three of those areas. You take a look in his body, look at his high school accomplishments and college accomplishments. But really, when I look at the last two Super Bowls and see those two ends catch those footballs to win the Super Bowl, if you'd seen a picture at Roger Eischens' funeral, you'd have seen exactly the same type of picture. Two things, two toes in on the line, reaching straight out. He was good. He helped lead us to the North Central Conference Championship at Rookie, South Dakota, which is darn tough to do. He was the catalyst that helped us win the NSIC. He also played basketball. I teased him a lot about saying, well, why don't you come out for a hard sport? Well, he was the fifth starter on the team for Coach Iverson that won the conference, and the next year would win the national championship. Wow. It's amazing. I just met that coach again just 3 years ago. He's that old. I was going in the hospital, and he says, "You're Mike Sterner?" And I said, "Yes." And he says, "You know, I like to take my basketball team to your practices when Coach Williamson had you guys to show them what hard work was and what you had to do if you wanted to be a champion." And I thought, wow, Coach Iverson said that. So I come to practice in November of my junior year. There's Roger Eischens sitting in the wrestling room. I said, "Roger, what are you doing here?" He said, "I quit basketball and I'm coming off wrestling." I was, "What?" And I couldn't believe it. And I said, "Why did you do that?" And he said, "I tend to accept challenges." And did he accept it? He was on the team that we beat the University of Minnesota, defending Big Ten champions in wrestling. He helped us beat them. And him and Dee Brainerd and Jim Perkins, who was here, became South Dakota State's first National Division II All-Americans. He did that in just 2 years. It's amazing how good he was. "Why, Roger, did you do that?" And again he says, "Because I like to accept a challenge." And I was just amazed. Did Coach Iverson's talk have something to do with it? I don't know. But you can see he accomplished a lot in the body. In the mind, sophomore, junior, and senior year, 4.0 at South Dakota State. Physics professor came to our room one day and told him, "Roger, come on for physics. You don't want to major in this kinesiology, physical education stuff." That's how good he was in his other courses that he took. And I really remember how sharp he was. I one day had a friend of him visit with him, and we went out to Canby State Park. And he was teaching yoga, Roger was. And I asked this person in the park who it was, and he says, "I'm a doctor." "A doctor?" "Yes." "What do you teach?" "I'm an orthopedic specialist. We have one of the top clinics in the country in the Midwest." "What is your specialty?" "Backs." And I said, "How'd you meet Roger?" He says, "I couldn't treat my own back, and I went to the national convention, and no person could treat my back. Now, one person at the national convention said, 'Go on to Wisconsin, there's a guy called Roger Eischens. And this orthopedic specialist says, I went to Roger Eischens to hear he was selling shoes. He says, do you do backs? And he said, Roger looked up at me and said, yes, I do. And he said, can you help me? Yeah, Roger looked at him and said, backs are easy. Yes, I can help you. I said, did he help you? That orthopedic surgeon bent over backwards and touched his hands to the back of the floor. Holy cow. Here's a guy who couldn't bend forward. It was amazing what he did in terms of mind, putting together the body movements and helping people. And he was also a spiritual person. We'd go on many walks together and discuss the spirituality network about life. And I remember something about Roger all the time. Christ said in the Bible that the greatest commandment of all was to love thy neighbor as thyself with the love of God. And on the radio I turned on one day and I'm thinking of Roger, and they said, give me one word that represents spirituality. And people phoned in from all over the place, and the one that won was the word others. And Roger did think of others. At Southwest State University in the mid-70s, we started losing students because the draft was dropped. Coaches were dropped out of the system. WCCO said Southwest is quitting, so they asked me to be interim football coach. While I was interim football coach, I asked him to come help me one year. He helped me for a whole football season without asking for a cent. He thought of others first. And I always remember that depth of it in his heart. So I think he represented everything. The mind, the body, and the spirit. And I understand why he's in yoga. And that's why I teach yoga now. I understand where he's coming from. There was a quote I seen in a restaurant just the other day. If tears could build a stairway and memories Elaine, I'd walk right up to heaven and bring him home again. Thank you again excuse me. If tears could build a stairway in memories lane, I'd walk right up to heaven and bring him home again. Yes, I would bring Roger home. If I could do that. So, thank you again for allowing me to honor him. And I will say goodbye to you as Roger the Guru taught me. Namaste. 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 May the universal spirit in me greet the universal spirit in you. What a person you had come from Canby. He was awesome.
To add to that, except that Roger was a wonderful brother to have. He ran marathons a lot, and when he told me one time he ran outside of Canby a long, long time ago, and people looked at him as though he was kind of strange, so he didn't run for a little while. When he was running a marathon in Madison, Wisconsin, a younger runner passed him and said, "Speed up, old man, you'll never make it." A few miles down the road, the same young man was laying at the side of the road gasping for breath. And Roger said, I just looked at him and said, "You need to pace yourself, young man." But that's how Roger lived his life. Slow and steady. He never let anyone or anything throw him off course. That was something he tried to teach his nieces and nephews also, and his brothers and sisters, but we didn't take to it very well. His one thing in life was, he said, it is like it is. And that's how you have to live, and that's how he lived. Growing up in a small town didn't stop Roger from anything. He won, I think, 13 letters in high school. But one of the biggest and best things for Roger ever was George Potter and his wife Jan. He wouldn't have made them without them, and our family will be always faithful to them. And then I did another thing. When I was looking through his things, I read his annuals, and you should never do that. But I found out that he did flirt with girls, and he did go to parties, and he did dance, which I was glad to find out too, because he did study a lot. And he did get 4 master's degrees, and I don't know how he did all that he did. A little boy coming from a little town, but he did it. And we all know he was a good athlete and a good student, but he was a wonderful yoga teacher. He went to India for 3 or 15 years, for 3 months every year and studied, and taught yoga and did it very, very well. Except when he'd come to St. Cloud and try to teach his sister. And he'd tell the rest of the class, don't even look at her, she's too right-sided, she can't even stand up. And he meant on 1 foot, which I couldn't do. But he was good. When Roger first went to Madison, Wisconsin to teach, he noticed that students weren't getting enough food, so he started a food co-op. The kids could work there for food or for money, whichever they wanted. Then later on, he bought 4 acres outside of Madison, started an organic farm, and again had the students come and work there and live there if they needed to. And then he started Crest Spring Farm and sold subscriptions for fruits and vegetables to the people in Madison, Wisconsin, again helping out students, which he always helping somebody else. Then he started a shoe store because he noticed that the kids couldn't get shoes except if they mailed them from by mail order. It was called Moving Shoes. It's still in existence. There's a Moving Shoes in California, which is his partner would start. He just did many, many good things. But most of all, he was a wonderful brother. And his 2 college friends, Mike and his brother John, would come to visit, and I'd get this phone call, and Mom would say, Roger's here, and those 2 Sterner boys are here, bring food. That's what we did. And Mike and Roger were counselors one summer at a camp. They were going across the lake in a canoe, and John dropped his hearing aid in. Roger reached over to get it, dropped his glasses, and they barely made it to shore. So the memories of Roger are all over in our display area. I guess the treasures of Roger, we just keep in our heart. Thank you so much for honoring him.
Jerry Jingles will make our next presentation.
I first met Lowell Nomeland in the fall of 1960. He had graduated from Canby, and Bemidji State recruited him to play football. Bemidji had a couple of good teams in 58, 59. They had some veterans on those teams, and some of those players were 24, 25 years old when they left school. And then they kind of had a rebuilding here in 1960. And they brought in, state colleges were recruiting, still mostly in-state kids, but they brought in a few misfits that year. And Roger kind of landed in the middle, or not Roger, I'm on the wrong guy. Lowell landed in the middle of that. And so it's sort of a chaotic situation there. But it wasn't long before people started to notice that Lowell was something special. He had a presence and a maturity about him that gave him credibility not only with the new jocks but also with the upperclassmen. And he just seemed to have some leadership qualities that were needed in that program, and that continued for the next 4 years. While he played football there, I believe he started all 4 years and was all conference the last 3 years. In the summer of 1964, I talked to Lowell in Bemidji at summer school, and he had used all his eligibility, and he got married there somewhere, and he had a couple of quarters left before he got his diploma. George Potter had just left Canby in 1964, and I had signed a contract to come to Canby and coach B-squad basketball and social studies. And so I was getting all the inside dope on Canby from Lowell, and he was very tactful and diplomatic, but reading between the lines, I know he was thinking, Canby hired you to coach basketball? And if you look at his profile there, you can see kind of what he did and what people thought of him. I don't know if all of you got to see the information on the display cases, but he's got a contract there with the Minnesota Vikings that he signed, so he had a tryout there. I think of interest was the dollar amount on the contract. I don't know if any of you caught that, but he signed for $9,000. As I remember Lowell and talking to some of his teammates, I think there's about 3 things that would stand out. His versatility. He was an old-time athlete. He played all 3 sports in high school: football, basketball, baseball. In college, he played football and baseball. In high school, he played anything from end to quarterback, wherever they seemed to need an athlete. In baseball, even in college, he was a pitcher and a catcher and a shortstop. Second thing was reliability and consistency. I have a friend that was a good friend of Lowell and played football with him at Bemidji, and he could remember that the coaches didn't have to spend much time coaching Lowell. Once he found out what his assignment was and the scouting report, he could just about leave him alone. There were some other people on the team that required a little bit of reinforcement there, but Roger seemed to know what to do, and he went out and he got it done. The third thing was just his physical presence. The people that knew Roger in high school and college all mentioned what a physical person he was. You had a feeling that he had command of the thing. He kind of got your attention. When he pitched a baseball, you know it was going to come in hard and fast, and it might be somewhere around the strike zone. I don't know if Lowell played football today. I don't think he'd dance in the end zone after a sack or after he scored a touchdown. I think he probably wouldn't celebrate. I think he probably would just get up and go back, get ready for the next play. But these qualities, along with some humility, gave him the leadership skills that I think made him a successful person. And I'm proud to present this plaque to his son, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jerry. I first just wanted to thank the committee for putting my father up for this award. I also wanted to just mention that my father's sister Lois is also here, and my mother Karen, and my sister Jill, her daughter Bryn, and her youngest daughter Bryn, and my youngest son Henry. Talking to my mother on the way here, and we were just discussing my father was able to receive his Hall of Fame award at Bemidji State. That was in the mid-'80s, but beyond that, we've had to do this for him. And thankfully, we've gotten to do this a couple of times. Faribault, he was a longtime coach and athletic director for that Hall of Fame, and also the Minnesota Athletic Directors Hall of Fame. But in talking with my mother, she was pretty certain that this would have been the Hall of Fame that did mean the most to him. Growing up, athletics was a lot to him, but I've heard a lot of stories. There were times where he kind of veered off that path, and there were moments where he might have gotten in with the wrong crowd. But it was his family and his coaches and his teachers that kind of got him back on track and let him have that athletic career that he had. That athletic career did lead him to a college scholarship, an education he probably couldn't have gotten without it. And that led him to a career in coaching and as a high school administrator. And as a coach and administrator, he was always looking for those types of kids, those kids that might be veering off track. And it was those beginnings here in Canby and those people here in Canby that kind of led him to his career and the success he did have as a coach and administrator. So, and the Vikings contract, he did sign that contract with the Vikings, and it was pretty cool to have a dad who had that Vikings contract on the wall. And we had a newspaper article up on the wall with touchdown catch in the scrimmage. They didn't have preseason games back then, so their big final scrimmage, he caught a touchdown pass from Fran Tarkington, and I was a kid. Fran Tarkington came back to the Vikings and got to tell all my friends, yeah, hey, my dad caught a pass from Fran Tarkington, and show him the contract, show him that article. But my mom did remind me that his Vikings career did last about 2 weeks, so close, but didn't quite stick with the team. But again, I want to thank the committee. Actually, thank everybody who came. We've been to I've been to a few things like this in my hometown of Faribault, and this turnout is outstanding. So it's a testament to everybody here and the people on the committee. This is a special event. Thank you very much.
Will be our next presenter.
Good evening. It's my honor to present Lyle Kraft this evening for induction. Lyle graduated from Canby High School in 1964. He was a four-year letter winner in football, basketball, and baseball. He was a Little Sioux All-Conference basketball player his senior year. After attending St. Cloud State College for a year, he attended Huron College here in South Dakota. From 1966 to 1968, he was selected All-Conference his junior and senior years in basketball. He was also selected as the team's most valuable player both his junior and senior years. And during his senior year, he averaged 19 points a game as a senior. Also, he played baseball at Huron College. He was all-conference his junior and senior years. He was a 3-year regular player at second base and hit over 300 all 3 years. He made the All-NAIA Region baseball team his senior year. Lyle was further honored in 1998 by being inducted into the South Dakota Intercollegiate Hall of Fame. His name is inscribed on a plaque at the Corn Palace in Mitchell, South Dakota. After graduating from Huron College, Lyle became Director of Admissions for Huron College from 1969 to 1972. From there, he moved on to become the Dean of Admissions for Park College in Kansas City, Missouri. In 1995, he started his own business called Target Marketing, a company which is used by colleges to recruit college students. Lyle and his wife Nancy have resided in Liberty, Missouri, a suburb of Kansas City, for 26 years. They have 3 children: Rob, a son who's here tonight with his family, a son Brooks, who lives in Kansas City, and Rob incidentally lives in Minnesota, good old Minnesota, Cottage Grove. We got him back anyway. And daughter Brighton, who lives in Lincoln, Nebraska, and she was recently married. Also present tonight is Lyle's brother-in-law and sister-in-law from Bruce, South Dakota, Jerry and Judy Danielson. Thank you for coming. Lyle also has a brother, Keith Kraft, and his family who live here at Canby, and a sister, Kaye, who lives in Watertown, South Dakota. And my tie into this all is eventually I ended up being Lyle's brother-in-law. Besides being a fine athlete in high school, Lyle was very active in other school activities, being president of the Canby FFA chapter his senior year and serving as a class officer and student council representative. Lyle scored 733 points from his sophomore to senior seasons in basketball. It is not known for sure how many points he scored, as his freshman yearbook scorebook has been misplaced or lost somewhere along the line. And he scored these points during the years when each basket counted 2 points. And most of his shots were kind of from long range. And they would probably have been all three, the majority of them would have been three-pointers today. And as Irv Mixon alluded to, during these years, there was only one state basketball tournament in Minnesota. The small schools played all the big schools. And so Canby played everybody in the area. And during those years from 1962 to 63 when Lyle played, three of the area town teams that were particularly strong were Grand Falls and good old Ortonville and Marshall. And Ortonville was coached by Irv Mickelson during those years. He was a trader or something. I don't know what happened. But we always had some tough games at Ortonville. During the 1962-63 season, when Lyle was a junior, Marshall actually won the entire state tournament and were the state champions. So that gives you a kind of indication how strong the area was. A couple of the basketball games that Lyle played in that stand out to me was one during his junior year and one during his senior year. The first one was when Lyle was a junior in December of 1962. We were playing Grand Falls in this gym, and they were the heavy favorites to win. Well, the game started, and we gave them a good battle the whole game. The game went back and forth, back and forth. And at the end, it ended up Grand Falls was ahead by 1 point. And there wasn't much time left to go in the game. And Coach Potter was the coach back then. Coach Potter called timeout. And we set up a play. And he said, I want the ball to be in Lyle's hands at the end of the game. And whatever that play was, it was like a lot of things at the end of the game. There's a lot of yelling and screaming and jumping around going on. That play never got off. I don't know what it was. But the good thing was, Lyle ended up with the ball with a few seconds to go. And he was standing out there in the middle of the court, right about where Lloyd Cleveland sat. And threw the ball up. And I always remember that. It was that basket right there. I always remember that beautiful sound that the net makes when the ball goes through, that whipping sound. He swished it. And we beat Grand Falls by 1 point. And they didn't lose another conference game all year. They ended up winning the conference that year. But we beat them here. And another game that stands out in my mind is in January of 1964 when Lyle was a senior. We played Marshall in Marshall, Minnesota at their gym. And they were the defending state champions. And they had 4 of their 5 players back from the previous year. So they were a tough team to play. During this game, Lyle burned 2 All-State guards for 30 points. It was quite an accomplishment. So with much ado, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to present my former teammate, Lyle Kraft.
Thank you, Daryl. Appreciate that. The Hall of Fame Committee, thank you for asking me to be a part of it tonight. And I would also like to say thanks to my family for coming. It's a great honor to have them here. My wife, Nancy, for 40 plus years, stayed with me. Obviously, my son, Rob, and my 2 grandsons, and Sarah, who are here from Minneapolis. In fact, Keith, when he called me to tell me that I was going to be inducted, he said, well, we want to use Bucky in the Hall of Fame. And I said, you have to, because my 2 grandsons use that as, instead of Grandpa, I'm called Bucky. So it's to keep the 2 grandpas separate. So my 2 grandsons are keeping Bucky alive. I'd also, as Daryl had mentioned, my sister Kaye and Daryl, I'm excited to have you here, and Keith and your family, and also my brother and sister-in-law are here from Bruce Brookings, so I appreciate that. It's exciting tonight to have an opportunity to meet a lot of friends I remember in Canby. Obviously, I want to say one thing first. Daryl was telling me, hey, Lyle, you're going to be in the Hall of Fame out in the back. And as we were talking, he was telling me, he says, well, he said, I've got the Hall of Fame in the gym. And we looked at, if you look over here in the trophy case, you see the hole in the wall right over here to my right? That's Daryl when we were having baseball practice here. And he had an errant throw, and it's been there for 40-some years. So, you now know who to charge for the broken door there, Daryl. But had an exciting time. Certainly, I appreciate the opportunity, obviously, to come back to Canby. And one of the things I'd like to say to those of you that are young athletes that are here tonight, obviously, Canby, you have an opportunity to participate in the community, and certainly the opportunity to play several sports and be involved in activities. And as I travel around the country, as Daryl had indicated, I travel to a lot of universities and a lot of schools. Today, our athletic programs have been so competitive, and it's been so difficult for young athletes to participate in a lot of sports. And that was something that I remember at Canby, to have that opportunity to play every sport, every season, and that's something that really means a lot. The other part I'd also like to say that I was excited when Keith had told me that Coach Potter and Coach Saum were going to be inducted, and I was excited about that part of it. And obviously I remember the days in football when we would come off the farm and it was football season, and Coach Saum would, first day, man, we had pads on and we were working like crazy, and it was, we thought how tough he was and how difficult it was in football. And then he'd catch us over here at the Otter Tail having a Coke at the little Coke machine across the street, and then we'd jump back in our car and we'd have to go back to the farm. But it was exciting in football. Coach Potter was a great mentor for me, meant a lot to me with my basketball career. Obviously, I felt sometimes intimidated by him. In fact, George, his son, tonight we were talking about the times he'd sit over in the corner of the gym, and all of a sudden he'd bounce the ball and kick it across the floor. He was afraid that his dad was going to get on him. And so we were excited to have Coach Potter. We felt that, boy, he was difficult, but as I moved through my athletic career and an opportunity to take that into life, certainly the discipline and the commitment. In fact, I still remember another game that I felt pretty good that I had scored 30 points, but I also had 7 fouls. I had 5 personals and 2 technicals, and in those days you could have technicals, but when we went down to the gym after the game, Coach Potter says, well, Lyle, you did great on the 30 points, that was great, and you hustled and you played good defense, the 5 fouls are great, but I'm disappointed in the 2 technicals. And he brought me back to reality to say that there's more in sportsmanship and commitment and how you play the game. And he was right in that part of that. So it was a big part of growing up. Again, I appreciate the opportunity. This is great to come back, and again, to the young student athletes in Canby, I think you've got a great community and a great opportunity, and hopefully you'll continue to keep the Canby alive. Very much.
And Jerry Jingles will be our next presenter.
By 1966, I'd been promoted from B Squad basketball to B Squad wrestling. And John Panning was in the 9th grade. And I think Mr. Bussy was the wrestling coach for the 7th through 9th graders. And I really didn't know the junior high kids very well. But somewhere toward the end of the year, I somehow got an assignment to take the junior high to Marshall to a wrestling meet of some kind. And on the way back, I thought I should try to get acquainted with the junior high kids a little bit. And I remember I called them up one at a time and tried to find out what kind of a season they had. And I got to John and I said, well, how many matches did you wrestle? I can't remember, was it 8 or 9 or something like that. I said, how many did you win? And I won all of them. I said, you won all of them? And he just kind of grinned, yeah, you won all of them. And I asked Mr. Bussy later about that. Yeah, he said he probably did win all of them. But it didn't seem like anybody else on the bus won all their matches. John, and then in the 10th and 11th grade, he was kind of in and out of the lineup and B squad and varsity, and I don't know what his record was, but he didn't lose very often. And then his senior year, he really came around and matured into a first-class wrestler. I remember, I think after football, we had 7th-hour athletics, and after football, then he had about 4 weeks before wrestling started. And I must have had that open because he kept coming and wanting to wrestle with me. And he was a little bit bigger maybe, but it wasn't too bad, but he had these hands and he grabbed my wrist and I flipped over my wrist. I couldn't get my wrist free, and then one time he crunched me and I still have a rib sticking out here that he fixed up. But he had a pretty good senior year. He pinned just about everybody. We went over to Appleton, I remember, in December, and he was wrestling 165, and they had Brad Reingans at 175. Well, I thought, well, he should move up and wrestle him. He was an undefeated kid. And that ended up 1-1. Well, we didn't think too much of it at the time, but Brad Reingans, most of you know, was, I think, a 2 or 3 time state champion, and he later was on the Olympic team, and John wrestled at the University of Minnesota, so that match has come up quite a few times over the years. Then we went to the conference tournament in Ortonville, and he was at 165, he pinned everybody in the first period, and he was really rolling, and I think it was that next week he called me and he said he had mononucleosis, and Dr. Olson said, you're done for 6 weeks. And you need a lot of rest. And the district tournament was only about 4 or 5 weeks away. And so I really thought he could place in the state tournament. And so we went down to Tracy. This was 68, 69. And there was a lot of snow. And they had a rule that if you had 6 teams in the district, you sent 2 to the region. If you had 5 teams in the district, you sent 1 to the region. So Verdi didn't get there, so we only had 5 teams, and the tournament manager was Leo Sebastian from Tracy, and he really wanted to do something about it, to try to get around this. So he called around, we held up the tournament for quite a while, and hoping Verdi would get there, and he got a hold of the superintendent Frisbee in Ivanhoe, and he was on the region committee, and he was somewhat of a wheel in the state, I think. And Mr. Frisbee said, well, you go ahead and wrestle. That's not going to be a problem. We'll send 2. These are unusual circumstances, and I'll take care of the Minnesota State High School League. And so we did, and John wrestled 2 matches, and he was in the finals, and I thought, well, we're not going to tire him out, so we pulled him out of the finals and forfeited because we thought he was going to the region anyway. And then, of course, Monday morning we found out that Superintendent Frisbee didn't have as much clout with the state high school league as he thought he did. So that's how John got eliminated his senior year. And then he wanted to wrestle at the University of Minnesota. He was going there, and he said, "I'm going to wrestle." I said, "Well, that's good, but they're not going to pay a lot of attention to somebody that didn't get out of the district tournament in high school." So I contacted one of the assistant coaches that I knew down at the university, and I said, kind of told him the story, and I said, "If he doesn't come out, you go find him because he might help you out someday." Now, I don't think he had to find John. I think John found him because he made up his mind he was going to wrestle. And he was kind of a learner there for a couple of years. He was working out and wrestling a little bit, but he was never really in the lineup. And then his junior year, all of a sudden, he was ready and he was in the lineup, and he was really looking good. In fact, got to the Big Ten tournament at the end of the year, and John was seeded first at 177, and then he went out and lost his first match. And you could still get to the national tournament if you could finish third, but you had to wrestle back, and he wrestled back 4 times, and I think he pinned in his third place match and qualified for the NCAAs. And then down at the NCAAs that year, he pinned four people in a row and all the way to the finals with falls, and that's how he got this Goriarian award. And I remember I was doing some research on John here 2 or 3 years ago, and I ran across this news article. Wally Johnson, who was a coach at the University of Minnesota, was talking about John panning that year, and he said John didn't wrestle well in the first round of the Big Ten, but then he came on, he pinned 4 people in a row to get to the third place in the Big Ten, and then the next tournament was the NCAAs, and he pinned 4 in a row to go to the finals. And I thought, boy, that's 8 falls in a row in post-tournament competition or post-season competition, and that's kind of unheard of, especially in those days. And so I asked John about that, and he said, "Well, I don't think Wally's memory is too good." He said, "I think one of those was a decision." So he maybe only pinned 7 out of 8 there, but he had a pretty hot streak. When I think of John, I always think back to that school bus in 1966, and it seems like some things never change. John gets things done. And he's a very exceptional student. He's captain of his high school wrestling team, captain of his college team. He was a very successful corporate financial officer, retired, home in Florida, 2 daughters and a wife. Pam, home in Montana, plays a lot of golf, skis, and hunts. He just seems to get everything done. If you look at him, 177 pounds was his college weight, and he looks to me like he could just about make that now. So I'm honored to present John with this plaque.
I too want to thank the committee for the nomination. I think you made some very, very good nominations. More seriously, I think this really is a great event. The 10 people that make up the committee, this is extraordinary to have a turnout like this with all these people here. I know it's the second year, and I think it's going to be great to keep it going. It's a great committee. Jerry called me up for this event and said I was going to be nominated for it. And he said I needed a presenter. It took me about a half a second to say, "Jerry, could you do that?" And Jerry graciously accepted. And what an honor to have Jerry present for me. Obviously, the whole dynasty of wrestling here kind of really got started with Jerry. And it's great to see the traditions continuing with the coaches out there. And obviously the assistant coaches and the whole support staff here, but all the families that were involved in wrestling really has made this a great town. Whenever you talk to somebody about wrestling and they mention Canby, everybody knows it immediately. So thanks for today. I'd like to recognize a few other people as well that certainly helped me. My immediate family is all here tonight. My mom, who made this all possible, Louise. My brothers, Larry, Jean, and my two sisters, Joe and Lindy. It's pretty great to have the whole family here. I think that's terrific that I know that certainly my companion at the front door who's got a bigger family and a bigger group supported it. It's good to see a lot of families here. It's really an honor. I'd also like to recognize a teammate that's here tonight. As Jerry said, you know, when you were in this little room next door here, which was the wrestling room, it was kind of tight and crowded. We worked out a lot together, and there's certainly even though wrestling's a big individual sport, it's definitely a team sport. Daryl Wicks was my co-captain. Raise your hand, Daryl. Daryl and I worked out a lot. As Jerry mentioned, I think the three of us were kind of we did a lot of round robins together. It was great fun to not only be coached by Jerry, who I really respect, but also to wrestle with him, but also the rest of the team, but Daryl Wicks in particular, because he was real close to my weight class. The only other thing I want to say is what a great place to have grown up. Growing up on a farm, I think the Midwestern values of the Canby area, the hard work ethic, things we're going to carry the rest of our life. I think you all couldn't be prouder to have come from a place like this, and it's really an honor to have been nominated for this award. Thank you.
Next presenter, Bill Bredesen.
Got the honor to nominate Jeff Merritt. Jeff Merritt graduated in 1977. He lettered in track, baseball. He lettered 4 times in cross country, was the MVP in 75 and 76. He also lettered 4 times in wrestling. As a sophomore, he was on the state team, the 1975 state team. It was runner-up to Fridley when there was only one class system. He was also on the state team in 76 and 77, where he was the state champion, or we had the state champion then. In 1977, he was a wrestling MVP. In high school, he was a 2-time Little Sioux Conference champ, 3-time District 9 champ, 2-time Region 3 champ, 2-time state champ. His high school career was 107, 7-2. He went on to school at the University of Minnesota and lettered in 77 and 78 in that year. From there he went to Morris, where he lettered 3 times. He was 3 times NIC conference champ, 2 times All-American. In 81 he was 3rd in the NCAA Division III tournament. And in 82 he won 2nd place in the same tournament. Now, Jeff is also known as Nutley. I'm not quite sure where that came from, but the nickname was Nutley, and he stuck with it for a while. As a freshman, Jeff was squeezed off the team when his big brother Bobby moved down to 98 pounds during the state tournament time, so he wasn't on the state team there. Jeff was known as an aggressive wrestler. He may have been known to give up a lot of points, but he always scored more. He was not a staller. He would force takedowns and never use a controlled ride, and would try to go for the fall right away, whether the guy was broken down or not. He was always in a hurry to score points. As a 9th and 10th grader, Jerry would talk to him before he sent him out to the match. By the time Jerry got back to the bench, he'd turn around and Jeff would be behind 0-4. but he'd usually win 15-7 or something like that. In his senior year, as the defending state champion, Jeff got dinged a couple times during a match. He was examined by the referee and the team tournament physician, and that was when you held up, how many fingers do you have? And that was your mental alertness test. Anyway, the injury time was running short, and it was just about out, but they didn't expire. He went on to win that match. And afterwards, I think I wound up taking him to Hennepin County Emergency Room. But before I did that, Tom Hanson gave a little bit of his own mental alertness quiz when Jeff came off the match. I'm not sure what that was, but anyway, Jeff Merritt, I know he wants to get up here and talk quite a bit, so. Jeff, congratulations on your 2009 induction to the Hall of Fame.
First of all, thanks, Bob, for kicking me off the team that year. And thank you, Bill. It was quite an honor. I'd like to first thank the committee for getting the Hall of Fame started. I've always enjoyed stopping, looking at the other schools' walls of fame, and I'm very honored now to be part of Canby's Hall of Fame among this fine group. I'd like to thank the Canby fans who followed me through the years. I'd like to thank Coach Garrison, Jingles, for the time they put in to make me or us the best that we could be. After high school, I was recruited by Wally Johnson, the head coach of the Gophers at the time. I remember him asking me what my goals were. Did I want to be a Big Ten champion, an All-American? Well, I really didn't know what the Big Ten was and what an All-American was. I soon found out. After lettering the first year at the U, I came back for a second year to find out that Wally recruited another 6 state champs at the first 2 weights, which was at 118 and 126, which I was wrestling at. Then I decided to transfer to the University of Minnesota Morris, where I wrestled for another fine coach, Doug Dipton. I remember one of those first days of practice in Morris, a teammate asked me where I was from. I told him I'm from Canby. He kind of looked at me, Canby. Isn't that where they teach the 4 arts? Reading, writing, arithmetic, and wrestling. Canby sure did a name for itself. I also like to thank my family, teammates. Their support was a big part of my success. Again, thank you for this honor.
Our next presenter.
Well, Tom, I don't know where we begin or start. I just came here for the meal. Tom and I graduated together in '78, and we were captains together. And being on the same team in '77 with likes of Jeff Merritt and Fred Cole and those gangs kind of brought you up to a new level. That's what Canby Wrestling's always been about. We always worked together as a team, and everybody got along. So the first thing when Jerry asked me about Tom, the president, and I thought to myself, what can I say? And he told me to keep it clean, so that took the first 7 things off my list. I'm trying, Tom. So anyway, but Tom's easy to talk about. We did a lot of things together. But one thing about Tom is when he had a goal in mind, he went after it. He did a lot of hard work. He'd do things after practice. And that's what brings it to now with me coaching is seeing what he did and what we need to do to win and the success he's had. So that's one of the easy things to talk about is how hard he worked. But the biggest thing that I like about Tom is no matter what he did, and he did a lot of things individually, he always talked about teams and helping out. Up in practice one day, we had a kid named Wayne DePesto, and we had a pretty good team that year. And Tom comes up to work with him, and he was working at Swans at the time, and I asked him if he could come up and help out with the heavyweights. I did it for a while. I was a few pounds smaller back then, maybe 2. But anyway, so it was nice to always bring in, like Jerry would always bring in some of the older class to come back and talk to the kids and work with them. And Tom did do that. And he went up to Wade and made a challenge to him. And he gave his gold medal when he made won state. And it was a challenge. And everything about Tom is a challenge. It didn't matter whether it was football or wrestling. He always wanted to do good, but he always wanted to talk to the kids or his own teammates. So one day, he brought that up, and Wade kind of came up to me and just goes, "Why would a guy like that come and talk to me, with his stature?" And I said, "That's just Tom. Tom's always willing to step out and do what it takes to create a team atmosphere." And being a captain with him, I saw that, and I use that to this day. Probably the biggest thing in practice one day is Jerry Jingles came up to me, being a captain, and says, "You need to work with Tom. He hasn't been on his back." And he had arrested this one guy, if you've seen in brochures, that weighed, I don't know if it was 398, 450. Didn't matter, he was huge. And when Tom stepped on there and he had his hand along the side, we didn't realize how big this guy was. But anyway, Jerry was trying to say, "Well, we got to get him ready, get him on his back." I'm going, "Well, I'm wrestling 118 and I don't think I can do that." "Well, you figure it out." So I got hold of Jerry Myers, my brother Bob, and so 3 of us took him on, held him on his back. We didn't have no problem doing it. And Tom was, and all of a sudden, "Get him mad." I don't want to get him mad. All right, so we worked for a while, so then we started whispering sweet little things into his ear about his new girlfriend, who's now his wife. So when Bobby started flying and I'm still hanging on, and of course I was around his chest region trying to hang on to him, my brother and my other friend Jerry Myers was hanging on to him by his legs, and I see those guys flying. Before I knew it, I tried just getting up, getting away, but it didn't work out too well. So that's when I found out how hard that mat actually is when you have someone that big come back on top of you. But so I'd like to introduce Tom, a great wrestler, a terrific friend, and I'm sure by the way he is, he's a great family man. So here's Tom Hanson.
Everybody's so short around here, I'm going to put this thing up a little bit. I told Gary, you better keep it clean because I talk after he does, and I know more about him than he knows about me. But first of all, I'd like to thank the committee for nominating me, the people in Canby for coming here tonight, my wife and my family and my in-laws for being here. I was trying to figure out what to say tonight, and I couldn't figure out what to say, and I didn't want to bore everybody, so I just made a little thing up. I went out to the home place and sat there today and said, okay, I'll do this. You guys haven't been laughing all night, so we got to do that a little bit too. So I wrote, I remember in 6th grade, this teacher, he just had come there 2 years before that, and he was built like a brick shit house. Mr. Predicent. And he said, sorry, I said, That's 4, but that's okay. They said, you know what, Tom? He said, you might be a good wrestler. And I didn't pay much attention. My brother played basketball and stuff like that, but we tried it a little bit, didn't do much about it. Well, then I remember in 8th grade, and I think he's up Myron Bussy, came up to me in the middle of 8th grade, said, Tom, you should go out for wrestling. I said, why? He goes, because we need a heavyweight, and you're the only one around here big enough to wrestle. So I went home and asked my mom and dad, and I said, can I go out for wrestling? This guy wants me to go out for wrestling. And my mom and dad looked at me, and my dad said, okay, you can go out as long as you get your chores done when you get home. I said, okay, I can do that. So I went out, and I think 2 weeks later, we went to Watertown to a junior high tournament. I was in 8th grade. Myron says, go get him, Tom. I was out there wrestling, and Myron yells at me, crossface. And I looked back at myself, what's a crossface? I didn't know what it was. I got pinned 3 times that tournament. I lost every match. But they convinced me to come out the next year in 9th grade. I remember that because we went back to Watertown and I won that tournament. Page 2. I got 15 pages. Talk about football a little bit. We talked about wrestling now, but I remember riding my bike in the morning in the dark to practice in August and riding home. And I think that work ethic there got us a long ways, and I think we need some more of that in this day and age too. I remember Estle Saum. I remember Granite Falls. I was a senior. I was a pretty good football player. I got the living crap beat out of me by the first half. My head was hanging. I was sitting at halftime in the tree somewhere, and Estle came up to me, looked at me, and said, hey, Tom. I said, what? I'm tired and beat up. He goes, you know what? Tomorrow morning the sun's going to come up, and it's going to be a new day, and this ain't going to mean a thing to you anymore. I looked at him and said, you're right. And went out and we played another half, and we had fun. We didn't win the game, but that meant a lot to me. It stuck with me for 30-some years. I think some of you guys might remember this too. I remember third fall. I remember third fall running from the top of the bleachers, down the bleachers, to the side of the mat, to have a slight discussion with the referee about a call. I remember wrestling a guy called, his name was Bob Strayback. Weighed over 400 pounds. He was 6. Jerry said he was only 6 foot. I thought he was 6'9". He sure looked like he was. It was the second period. I think we were tied up. I didn't know what to do, and we had like an injury timeout. I go to the corner of the mat, and Jerry's there. He never said much. And I looked at him, and I just looked at my face, and I said, "What do I do?" And he looked back at me, and he had this look on his face. He didn't say nothing. About 10 seconds later, he said, "I think you're doing the right thing." Didn't help me a whole lot, but I got back up and beat the guy 4-3. It was fun. One other thing I remember, and I'll be quiet, but Forest Lake. I remember wrestling Forest Lake, and my brother out here, his son called the Minneapolis teams now cake eaters, and that's kind of what they were. And I remember wrestling them, and we beat the heck out of them. And the heavyweight come up to me, and a couple other guys came up to me after the match, and they said, "What kind of weight program are you guys on?" He goes, "You guys are also damn strong." I said, "It's called doing chores after wrestling practice." Well, I remember winning a state championship in 1976 with a team, and I still think that was the best wrestling team we ever had. That year, I think we were undefeated. I think we had 3 people in the state finals that year. I remember 1977 and the pride I felt in winning another state championship and winning individually. And doing it again in 1978. But I think the biggest thing I remember is coming back to this gym and seeing everybody from Canby here and walking in with a sense of pride and being able to give the town a sense of pride that we accomplished something. But I think finally I'll remember tonight because it's been fun. It's been fun meeting old friends. Heck, Kaye Christianson, I hadn't seen her for 30 years, and she hasn't changed a bit. But it's been really fun. I appreciate being here. like I said, I thank the committee for nominating me, and thank all of you for coming tonight, and thanks for the memories.
Our next presenter is here. I've had the opportunity and good fortune to be around Kaye in a variety of settings. First that I recall was small town rumor about this girl in Little League that none of the boys wanted to bat against. Then, as a student in my class, Ms. Christianson, a little less conversation in the back of the room and more attention up here, please. As a fan in the stands, yelling, "Kaye, Bernie's open!" And we would see down the floor, 2 points. As a parent of one of her players, "Coach, where'd you get that offense? At the dollar store?" "You paid too much." "And by the way, how come a kid from Burr's playing more than my kid?" As a fellow coach, Kaye, I'm having a problem with one of my players, and what if you've got some ideas on what will help me get some more production out of it. And I hope as a friend. Kaye Christianson Anderson was a 3-year letter winner in volleyball, an MVP, 2 all-conference awards, basketball, 3 letters, 1 MVP, 2 all-conference, was a career scoring leader until 2003. In golf, 2 letters, 2 MVPs. And then life goes in circles. She appears back in the Canby athletic program as a coach, leading the Canby volleyball team to the first ever conference championship, and assisting also in coaching in basketball and in golf. And then she met this gentleman, Murray Anderson, and they were married and went up north to the range, and she continued to coach and be very active in athletics in the school system and in the community in Hibbing. She also participated in various softball activities, being on a team winning a state title in South Dakota, and many league championships in Hibbing. I'd like to share with you a few comments that we received in her nomination for application from some of her former teammates and coaches. Comments like, not only a phenomenal athlete, but a mentor to all of us on and off the court. Another teammate, I learned that to be a leader, you must work very hard, but never put yourself above others and never take yourself too seriously. As a coach, Kaye has been a role model for many of our young athletes to follow. And another, Kaye set high expectations and standard for herself and everyone around her. She set the standard high for how things should be done, all with a sense of humor. And the more I write positive thoughts, the more positive thoughts come to mind. And a fellow coach, the first time I saw her throw a softball, I stood in amazement. Another, she is an old school coach, and her work ethic rubbed off on the girls right from the beginning. And one of her employers, we hired Kaye because of her character, integrity. She is a great team player. With that, I introduce Kaye Christianson Anderson.
I know I'm probably going to get a fashion citation, but I'm cold, so please, just the jacket needs to stay. And I need glasses, so it happened. I'd like to start by saying thank you to the committee for this great honor of being selected to the Hall of Fame. I'm very honored to be in this group tonight, and I congratulate all of you. My husband married 27 years. The game is still on. With our 2 sons here, Matthew, Nathan, and my mom, and the rest of my family, and Nancy did the pom-poms. We'll talk about that later. I think you're right, Tom. We need to loosen it up a little. I'm nervous to make this speech tonight, but very thankful to be able to say thank you to those that helped me the most. Without you, I would not be here. This gives me the opportunity to say thank you to the people that need to hear it. I was able to attend the first banquet 2 years ago. It's amazing how fast 2 years go, but I was able to attend the banquet 2 years ago, and I was so impressed with the individuals as they spoke from their hearts. As I was driving back to Hibbing all by myself, 6.5 hours, I decided to write on scraps of paper what I thought I would say someday if I were ever given this opportunity. And I thought I'd really be gray and old and pushing a walker maybe when I got this. But I'm very, very happy to be here. And when I was writing things down on scraps of paper in the car as to what was important to me back when I was here in school, I came up with the fact that it was you, my parents, family, relatives, my faith, my teachers. God, I love my teachers. Coaches, classmates, teammates, friends. All these people contributed to the person that I am, and I thank all of you for that. A lot of people were here, and a lot of people were and are still very supportive of me. I feel very blessed to have had you as a mentor and a friend. The circle of life that we participate in day after day is something that we cannot always control, but I've had a great ride, and I continue to. Every morning I can get out of bed, put my feet on the floor, and participate in the game of life. It's a good day. After sporting events when I was a kid, my dad would leave me notes in the morning after games, before games, and they were kind of like fire-up notes, and which we call today and stuff, and I always appreciated them. And one would be, good luck tonight, good job last night, and one was always, that I still look at to this day, is thanks for being you. So I want to say it to all of you, thanks for being you. When I was young, I'd sit on the steps at the farm with my glove, softball, baseball, any size ball, dime store balls, 10 cents a ball, rubber balls, and I'd sit on the steps and I'd wait until I hear my dad's truck come off the highway onto the gravel road. So I'd get everything ready, he'd come in the yard, I'd be standing there with the gloves, and he never said no, not now, maybe later. And we played catch for a while, and if he threw the ball off course, he'd say, my fault. Well, I do that with my boys too. We play catch, I do something stupid or whatever, my fault. He taught me how to be a good team player. You always have to rely on each other, and if you do make a mistake, it's okay to say my fault. I'd play catch off the house, I'd play catch off the corn crib. If the slats were just right, it'd come off funny, so I'd have to dive for it. They were my teammates for the beginning of my life. The corn crib, the barn, the house. I can remember putting up the basketball hoop the first time Dad and I went out and measured on the height, and we got the height just right, hung up the hoop. You have to remember that we played on grass. It was out by the side of the barn, and we played on the grass. And I guess that's where I got good footwork, because we had horses and sheep. So I had to run after the ball pretty quick. And neat, it wasn't concrete like you got. We didn't offer girls junior high sports when I was a kid, so I was a tomboy, I'll admit it. I loved every minute of it. So in 7th and 8th grade, we didn't have junior high sports. So there was a softball league in town that was organized, and I played for Cobbler's Corner. And I can remember being asked to play for Cobbler's Corner, and that was the only competitive sport I played in up to the 9th grade. And I was able to watch so many female athletes that were older than myself and younger play softball with great competitiveness that it made me want to compete. When I was in junior high, I can remember going to the elementary school, which we tried to go there and scrimmage quite often. And it was kind of disorganized because we didn't have girls basketball back then until I was in 9th grade. And I knew I really liked to be a good basketball player. So we were introduced to the Catholic school kids that came over in 9th grade. So that's where I met Bernie and Judy Hanches, and away we went. They were Catholic school, that is where a lot of new classmates and teammates came into my life. We were a competitive group of girls and just wanted to work hard and learn the skills. Coach Sillerwood was our basketball coach. He made us understand the game, and we had fun playing it. You have to realize that he didn't have us from 4th, 5th, 6th in elementary basketball, 7th or 8th grade. So a zone to some people was, what are you talking about? So he had to start from scratch, and that's where I saw Judy Hanches in the hall, and she was tall girl, and I'm thinking, ooh, center, she can be our center. We'll pick Judy up and be our center. So lo and behold, we got Judy to be our center, and she said yes to play, and away we went. When I passed the ball down to Bernie, watching her catch the ball and score, you knew we were in the game. It was always fun to look and see the people in the stands cheer and smile. Even Mr. Saum smiled a few times. We didn't have small ball that the girls got. I don't even remember what year the small ball came into effect for the girls, so we used the same size as the boys. And I often wonder what it would have been like to throw Bernie the small ball and having the three-point line. Our senior year, we set a record that was just broke last year by the girls' team here. And Bernie called and told me that someone had seen our team picture up on the wall for motivation to beat our record we held. I said, I'm sure they had some comments about our jerseys and about our jersey and about how hard our team worked. And that team was one that really did work hard, and everyone contributed in some special way, and that team will always be special to me. I was happy for the girls and the coaches last year that broke our record. It was time for a new one. I didn't go into volleyball until 10th grade. Coach Connie Lees asked me to give it a try. It was great, and I liked being in it because it got me ready for basketball. Then with golf, I started out with right-handed clubs. That didn't go so good, so my parents went to Sioux Falls and brought me back a set of left-handed clubs. Golf was a different pressure as an athlete. Some days were great and some not. It just made me want to play more. Jane Hayek and I would have some great battles on the court. We pushed each other to be better. We enjoyed every minute of it. Mr. Larson was a great coach, teaching us the game, motivating us, and being ready for competition. He once wrote in my annual, always remember, golf is the only time you hold your head down, otherwise you hold it up high. I have to say I love being a three-sport athlete. I look forward to the next season, the next team, the team goals, the plays we achieved, and finding out that hard work does really pay off. It gave me the tools that I use today in my everyday life. I cherish the memories about Mr. Saum. He was tough but fair. When he gave a compliment, you cherished it. He was a great teacher. He kept your attention the whole class time. He truly was a great administrator, coach, and teacher. To my parents and my teammates, parents were so fun. They were always there supporting us. I hold on to a great many memories. All in all, my experience here at Canby High School as a student, an athlete, and a coach will be something I always cherish. I had the best of the best, and thank you for that. Many years ago, I took part in a great memory on this stage, 30-some, I believe. I was asked to get up and say a few words in the microphone, all right over there where Bruce is sitting. So I stood there, looked into the microwave, and the words that came to me were, "This is quite a deal." Well, I never thought I'd be standing here again, but I will add one more word to that statement. Now this is quite a deal. Thank you for the great honor, and thanks for being you.
George Potter III.
here for the rest of the family to talk to the people here, see people we knew many years ago. Dad is not here tonight. He passed away earlier this year, so I'm not going to. It was 56 years ago, 1953, a young couple, George and Jan Potter, arrived in Canby at the young ages of 26 and 24, with 2 children in total. Joan was 4 and I was 2. And Susie was here 3 years away. My dad came here at the beginning of the journey of a career, of life, of teaching, coaching, and educating that is highlighted today with this Hall of Fame induction. I know he'd be greatly pleased. The early years of Canby, the community, the school, the people were a significant influence in defining who he would be for many years to come. And I think he wanted to, and I believe he did, leave a legacy and leave the people here better off than they've been here. He coached and taught here for 11 years after a short stint in St. Clair, Minnesota, before leaving to go on to Red Wing and St. Cloud Tech High Schools. But the friendships, the memories, and the values shared here were never lost on him and never forgotten, I can assure you. So I'm honored to be here today and introduce my dad as the next member of your Hall of Fame. I know he was pleased and anxious to be here, and we'll do our best to represent him. As we're going through this whole nomination process and what we wanted to say with Joan and Susie and I, and my dad, actually, the first thing we looked at was the nomination form. And the nomination form defines what the committee is looking for as coach nominations. And I'll read it to you. A nominee must be either a former or present coach who has distinguished himself or herself by demonstrating exceptional leadership, character, and athletic achievement during his or her tenure at Canby High School and has been out of coaching for 5 years. And I underscore leadership, character, and athletic achievement. I'm sure these are attributes that define all of your inductees in 2007 and this year. So past, present, and future. And I certainly believe they define my dad. He achieved many things, some for coaching, some for teaching, some for leading, some for managing, all for helping young people be the best they can be and to reach their potential. I think there's many of you here that will attest to that. Maybe a little bit first, though, before we get into some of the other contributions as a coach and teacher, I wanted to highlight a little bit about his athletic participation. He was a fairly accomplished athlete as well. He had 7 letters in high school in football, basketball, and baseball at Austin High School. He went on and played basketball and baseball at Grinnell and Luther Colleges in Iowa. He played amateur baseball in Minnesota from 1948 to 1962. This included the Canby Comets, of course, from 53 to 62 before he was forced to retire at the age of 35 in order to pursue his master's degree in the summer. And I was going to say, I'm not sure what he actually achieved that would warrant a Hall of Fame induction with the Comets, other than having a good time. That's important as well. But I noticed in the clippings and the memorabilia at the table in the cafeteria, there was a list of statistics from the Comets, and he led the teams in batting. I had no idea. He also, if any of you around would remember the game they played against the Cuban All-Stars in Satchel Paige. I maintained he got a hit off Satchel. And I asked him about it, and he was not real committal on it, so I'm not sure what the answer was. So I don't know if I still maintain it. I can't prove it, but unless we can dispute that, I'd like to have the record show that he got a hit and that was 1,000 off Satchel Paige, if that's okay. So now about his time at Canby. He was a teacher of social studies, history, and physical education at various times from 1953 to 1964. He coached head basketball for 11 years. He was head baseball coach for 8 years and was assistant football coach in the early years for 3 years. He was also an assistant principal for 4 years and athletic director for 10 years. And I would point out that at one time he was a teacher, head coach in 2 sports, assistant to the principal at the same time. We wanted to also just highlight some of the professional coaching and community service achievements that highlighted his time at Canby and beyond. He had a 70% winning record as a basketball coach in 11 years, with a record of 134 and 64, which I think is very commendable. He started a recreation program in 1954 in Canby and developed this program into a mainstay for youth summer activity for many years to come. He was one of the founders of the 8-team league for the Canby Pee Wee and Midget baseball teams for boys aged 11 to 15, which provided I think a productive alternative summer activity. And for these, he was affectionately known as Mr. Baseball, as I've come to learn. He started or helped start the Canby Church Softball League in the 50s. He built the baseball, softball facility down like some of, at least the original facility. I went down there and it doesn't quite look like it did back then. But he built that literally by hand. He was here when they started wrestling back in the 50s as the athletic director and helped get that off the ground. So in other words, yes, at one time he actually did not have wrestling in Canby. But that was when it started. He was long and avid proponent of girls' athletics, starting programs as athletic director in later years of both Ribbon and Cloud, and helping facilitate a significant increase in funding for all girls' athletic programs at these schools. In addition to that, many other activities, member of the Canby JCs, a trustee of the Canby Presbyterian Church, chairman of the Region 3 Minnesota Basketball Association, Coaches Association in 1963, managed the Minnesota High School League Class A Boys Baseball Tournament for 20 years in St. Cloud, was the tournament director for the Region 8 Minnesota High School League Hockey Tournament for 5 years. So clearly he was an active and energetic contributor in many ways. I mentioned the committee looked, in its description or definition, looks for leadership, character, and athletic achievement. I think the list of things that we've talked about that are listed in the program that I've given you, his interests, activities, accomplishments, and impact are testament to the leadership and character. In hindsight, we think about the impact of the man that we've honored. I think of the impact of the many athletes that came through that have coached him, many that are here, and many who will attest to that. The impact of the many children who passed through the summer program in Canby and other communities later on. The impact of the young boys who got to take a bus to the surrounding towns to play midget baseball and experience the camaraderie as boys of summer. The impact of many wrestlers who came later, after it started in the 50s for Canby, and participated in many years after that. The impact on young girls at this park in supporting girls' athletics at the high school level. The impact on many people, young and old, of a summer night at Lake Sullivan for a softball game. And the impact on former students and athletes who went on to successful lives and careers as a result of his teaching, his coaching, and his guidance. I believe the true sign of a leader and the true sign of character is one who seeks not attention or recognition first, but rather who first and foremost is built for others, and one who seeks to help and benefit others before himself. And I'll sum this up in an email that my dad received shortly before he died. So Armitage forwarded this to me because he knew Dad hadn't seen it. It was from one of his former student athletes. And it said, George, I coached summer league baseball for 4 to 5 years. And that included t-ball, coach's pitch, 12 and under, and 14 and under. And I learned the philosophy I wanted to use way back in midget baseball when we were. I didn't know it at the time, but eventually I got it. The philosophy. Unfortunately, Dad never got to see that message. But I know he would regard it as the highest compliment. And one of his former students and athletes benefit from the work he did in 1987. So thank you all for listening. Thanks to the committee and everybody involved. Special thanks to Armitage for all your help in this. to accept on Dad's behalf his mother, his wife, Jan.
I humbly accept this great honor on behalf of George, who was so looking forward to being here tonight, this weekend, last night, and especially tonight. Unlike some of the other inductees tonight, George knew about his nomination and acceptance into the Hall of Fame before he died last March 26th. I can't even begin to tell you how much this meant to him. He was so happy, so proud to be honored in this way. It was for him the icing on the cake. Looking back over his 37 years in education, I would say, and I know he would agree with me, that his 11 years in Canby's were some of the most defining ones in his career. The years that shaped him as a coach and teacher. This community gave him the opportunity to grow, to fulfill his dreams. Thank you so much. We thank you to Jerry and the committee for making this all possible. At the end, I would like to introduce my family. I met George already. They're here from tonight. Daughter Susie, who was the one who was born here in Canby, and daughter Joan, and her husband Don, and George's wife Barb, sitting down here, and another coach that came from St. Cloud that worked with George, came out of college, Paul Heine and his wife Tori, and they were here from 1957 to 1960. Thank you very much.
Estle Saum. Estle Saum. A name that means so much to so many people. He was the ultimate disciplinarian, a tremendous leader, and the greatest organizer that I knew. You give him a cause, and he made it an event. For example, the athletic banquet, which he did such a wonderful job of honoring the student athletes. He got the community involved and made it a community event. He wrapped his arms around a DU organization and helped make that organization as successful as they are. It's a wonderful honor for me tonight to be able to present this award, and I'm very grateful to Shirley and family for bestowing this opportunity to me. I knew Estle for about 30 years, and I had many what I want to call different experiences. My first experience with Estle, I was a ball boy for the varsity football team. Estle had just come out of retirement, one of his many retirements, to coach. And Steve and Dave's son were on that team. It was a very, very good football team. Well, anyway, Estle put me in charge of attendance. And I learned at an early age, the age of 11, how important it was not only to show up to practice, but make sure you're on time. Well, it was during that season, Canby played a football game in Madison, Minnesota. And all the coaches were in the middle of the field with their coaching uniforms on. but Estle had his own uniform. You know the one, the white plain t-shirt, the gray pants. I call them the janitor pants. Well, he always stood away from the other coaches at the end of the field, usually very subdued, but always positive to the players. Well, this particular night, he was extremely critical and very vocal, but it wasn't at the players, it was at the officiating. Well, right before halftime, the head official had come over to the sideline, our sideline, and had talked to Mike Dowlinger, who was the head coach at the time. And as he's pointing down the end here at Estle, he said, either you tell that bus driver to shut his mouth, or tell him to get his blankety blank back on that bus. Well, it wasn't a few years after that I got to experience Estle as the disciplinarian. I'm not going to talk about that. But believe me, he was very good at it. A few years after that, I also got to experience Estle as a coach. He was my head football coach, and I experienced him as a teacher. Tremendous at both, and it was kind of fun to see a new side, a lighter side of Estle. It was very, very enjoyable. And as time went on, I actually got to experience Estle in another way, because now he was my boss, as he hired me to be the head football coach at Canby. And what a terrific boss he was. Always supportive, always helping out in any way, and made our program as successful as it possibly could be. However, there were a few Friday nights that didn't go exactly the way I thought they should go. And lo and behold, Saturday morning, the phone would ring, and I'm going to tell you, it was very early on a Saturday morning. I would still be in bed, grab the phone, and I'd say hello. He said, Huber, Saum, you tell the kids they did a good job, coaches did a great job, you keep your head up high. Click. I'm still on the phone. Oh, and he did end the conversation by saying, now you have yourself a good day. Click. And now I'm still on the phone, and I'm thinking, I will have a good day, but it's going to start about 2 hours earlier than I planned on it. I could go on and on with other stories about Estle, but I know my little speech and this award tonight doesn't really do justice to what this man has meant to this community and to this school. And I know right now he's looking down on us, and I guarantee you he's looking down on me with that big hand, the one with that long finger that I swear is twice the length of my finger, and he's pointing at me saying, Hubert, don't you have anything better to talk about? Because he was a humble man, a very humble man. And he used that finger to point at others only when there was praise to go around. He gave me some of the best advice I ever got, and he received that advice from a coach, Paul Bear Bryant, the legendary coach at Alabama. He was at a coaching clinic many years ago, and he was sitting with Paul Bear Bryant over a beer, and Paul Bear Bryant told him, you live by 3 rules, he said, and things will be fine. He said, remember, when things go good, they did it. When things go so-so, we did it. When things go bad, I did it. He said, live by those 3 rules, and success will find you. Well, success has found Canby, and success has found this school. And I'm here tonight to say, Estle, you did it. God bless you, Estle, and congratulations.
go and sleep in at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. My dad was notorious for calling at 6:30 in the morning to wake people up on their day off. So I'd like to start by thanking the committee. You've started a wonderful tradition here, and I mentioned a couple people in the social period ahead of time. Not every school does this. This is very unique, and I think it's a wonderful thing to do to honor the people that have contributed through athletic programs. I'm really standing here representing my entire family. I think someone maybe snuck out when the Christiansons were waiting. But they had enough after a while here, but I want to especially recognize my mom, Shirley. If you just stand up real quickly. A lot of different interests, and I think he's passed that on to his children and his grandchildren. But athletics was really the basis for all of it. It was what gave him a sense of direction in life, and I think he tried to pass that on to people. I think the most important memory I have of my father is the fact that he did try to make an impact on people's lives. And his whole philosophy was he wanted to leave things a little bit better than when he found them. And hopefully he did that in this high school. I'm going to make this fairly short because it's been a long evening and it's been a wonderful evening. I think everybody that knows him knows he'd be totally uncomfortable at an event like this. He didn't want recognition. He was perfectly happy to sit in the chair right in the corner over there. In fact, I'm kind of surprised I wasn't forced to sit over there this evening for my acceptance speech. But I think he would have been very happy knowing that people recognized the fact that he did contribute to the success of the athletic programs here, and I think that would have made him happy. Again, I'd like to thank all the members of the committee. On behalf of my family, my mother, we thank you very humbly, and we're very honored by this. Thank you very much.
Congratulations to all the individuals and the teams. And that